Welcome to An Icon, where confidence meets creative power. I'm here to help you step into the woman you know you're meant to be, visually, energetically, creatively, and in business. This show is for the woman who's done playing small, done hiding behind safe visuals, done shrinking her identity to fit into spaces she's already outgrown. An Icon is about becoming undeniable through your presence, through your style, through your story, through the way you show up in your business. Because your next level isn't just about strategy, it's about identity. It's about becoming the woman your business has been waiting for, the woman who is seen, remembered, and paid accordingly. So if you're ready to elevate how you show up, refine your visual identity, and build a brand that feels powerful and aligned with who you really are, you're in the right place. Let's build your icon era. Hello and welcome back to An Icon. Today's episode is going to be such a powerful conversation. I'm joined by human design expert and business mentor Lindell Stewart, who helps 6- and 7-figure founders understand why business can feel harder than it should. Lindell's work doesn't just approach human design as a personality type or spirituality. She uses it as a practical framework to help founders understand how they're actually wired to lead, make decisions, use their energy, and build a business that genuinely fits them. With a background in digital marketing and having taught human design to more than 26,000 people, welcome to An Icon podcast, Lindell.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Camry. It's so nice to be on your podcast.
I'm very excited to have you here. We've been trying to plan this for a few weeks now. I actually listened to you on another podcast and I was like sitting there listening to it. And I think that's when I DM'd you. I'm like, can you please come on my podcast? There's so many things that I want to ask you. So the first question that I have for you, and something that I ask most of my guests, just because I just love this and I love hearing it, is who was little Lindell? Can you tell us about who you were? What were the things that you loved? What were your gifts as a young child?
Wow, that's such a good question. That's a beautiful question. Funny enough, the first thing that came to mind is I've always been a super curious person, like even as a little kid. Like kids are very curious, but I always had like this really deep curiosity, and I used to love teaching. I've loved teaching from very little, and I remember this memory of me making my poor dog sit because he was very well behaved. He used to sit, and I would pretend, because I couldn't read yet, I was that little, and I would pretend to be teaching him something, and he would just have to sit there for like an hour, and I would just pretend like he was my student, and I had like this little makeshift whiteboard. And so it's like, I guess for me, I've always loved the idea of teaching, super curious, very wanting to understand like why people do what they do, kind of why people tick the way that they do. And so the little version of me, just very adventurous, curious, and just always knew, I think deep down, I wanted to teach people something.
I love that. I think we're very similar in that space, and we're going to get into projector energy in a minute.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. That makes so much sense. Like that projectors are natural leaders, from what I know. And I'm not going to pretend I'm a human design expert at all, because I'm not. That's what you're here to teach us. But I know a little bit about myself, and I was the same. I always just wanted to know more about people. I was always been very curious. I love like reading books that teach about different personality types. Like that's very cool.
Yes.
Okay. What made you trust human design deeply enough to build a business around it?
Wow, another good question. I love these. Okay, so it was my own experience, to be honest. I was feeling very burned out in my first business that I ran, which was a digital marketing business. And I remember when I first started that business and getting into business, you'd go to these business events, right, or these workshops, and the question always would be, why did you start a business? And some people had these incredible answers, like really inspiring. And at the time for me, I was like, mine was just out of pure desperation. Like I needed to get out of the corporate world. I needed to be at home with my son. He wasn't sleeping. I wasn't coping. It was just a whole thing. And so when I discovered human design, I'd already been 3 years into this business and I was very good at it. And it was a very good business on paper. But what really got me to trust human design enough to completely let go of one business and move into this work was my own experience of discovering my human design. And then realizing that everything I have felt throughout my entire life, everything I have made wrong, quote unquote, about myself was just truly because I was a projector in human design. That's my energy type. I can't even tell you the aha moment when I understood that about myself. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've just been doing things in such a way that doesn't work for me. And that's why I keep hitting the same burnout cycle. And so it was that moment that I was like, okay, I'm going to just trust this because I've got nothing else to lose, right? I'm just constantly finding myself in this cycle. I'm just going to trust it. I'm going to give it a go. And I made huge decisions in my business at the time that were really, some people would say slightly dramatic, but it changed everything for me. And that's when I was like, every single human needs to know about this.
Yes. And so, for those who are listening that are maybe familiar with human design but don't know the full scope of it, because I think that even I sit in that bucket. I'm like, I kind of know, but I don't really know. Can you give us just a little brief overview of what human design is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most people understand sort of like disc profiling, enneagrams, Myers Briggs. It's kind of like the modern day version of that. That's how I love to describe it. But it's got a real beautiful spiritual aspect to it. It's quite holistic in the sense that it's got strategy to it, but it's also got the spiritual element because there's astrology involved. The Chinese is Xing. There are these components to human design, which is basically telling you about who you came here to be before the world told you who to be. So it's like this energetic blueprint that is you. And then we start to understand as human beings, just because of our experiences through life and all the things, how we're just taking on conditioning and how there might be some shadow elements. And when we start to peel back those layers to come back to who you truly are energetically, that is where we kind of truly find ourselves.
Yeah, so good. So good. And I think that this ties us really well into the next question that I have for you is understanding how this works in business. And that is exactly what you do is help people understand their human design, but actually apply it to business. And this has been for me personally, and I haven't even gotten that deep into it, but understanding energetically how we work and giving ourselves grace and understanding those aspects. And even now I'll ask people that I work with, I'm like, what human design are you? And a lot of times I find that I work really well with like generators or manifesting generators because they just have the opposite energy to me and we can kind of work off of each other's energy, but also understand it to work better together. And when it comes to building teams and all those sort of things, it's so important. But I really want to touch on something so I have every one of my podcast guests fill out a form and it's pretty in depth and I ask a lot of questions, but there's one thing that you wrote in it and I was like, oh, like literally mic drop moment. Okay. I'm actually going to read out exactly what you wrote and I want to deep dive into this. But ladies, like, take a moment wherever you are. I want you to listen to this because it's going to hit hard. Okay. Lindell said, I think a lot of founders are addicted to struggle, and the business world rewards that addiction. We celebrate the grind, the pivot, and the I almost lost everything story. But I'd argue that a business that feels hard all the time isn't proof that you're ambitious. It's proof that something is structurally wrong. Ease is not the enemy of success. For most of the founders I work with, it's actually the indicator that they finally got it right.
Mm.
Oh my God. Is that not like the most okay. For someone who has been in business for over 10 years, and I know that there will be women that are listening to this podcast that needed to hear that,
Mhm.
that ease is not the enemy of success. Let that just sink in for a minute because I know as someone who has run a business and been in entrepreneurship for 10 years, burnout, overwhelm, that addiction to the grind feels so real and it can feel so heavy. Okay. So, my question to you is why does ease almost feel unsafe for high performing women or entrepreneurs?
I think it's because people don't understand what ease actually means. I think because a lot of the times people think that I believe in hard work, right? Like hard work. Sometimes you're in a phase where you got to do all the things and you got to just, head down, bum up. However, I think there's a point in time where easefulness to me is a sort of momentum. It's not if you are constantly hitting health challenges, roadblocks, burnout, exhaustion, resentment, not enjoying the work that you're doing, waking up one day like I did and been like, okay, I've built this business. It's technically successful on paper. It looks great, but there's something in me that I'm not thriving. This doesn't feel like it lights me up. It's actually draining me. And I think that's where it's like, what if we did the shift and did the change, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, yes, I'm still running a business. And yes, there's still challenges, but there's an ease to this now. Like it's no more this constant battle where you're actually feeling like you're dragging yourself through something all the time. And I think the reason we get used to that is because that's just how we're taught and brought up in a sense, because even with school it's hard, it's exams, it's if you don't pass this and you fail that, then that's bad and you're not going to be able to go to university. And then I didn't follow that sort of path. I went to school, I was an academic, I was like, this is not for me, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I was like, I'm just going to get a job and then we'll start from there. But even in that, it was like we're constantly proving ourselves. We're proving ourselves in school, we're proving ourselves in jobs, we're proving ourselves in entrepreneurship. So I think that becomes this badge of honor to be like, because also we love an inspiring story, right?
Yeah.
So we love the underdog. We love somebody who had to fight for something. But I think that's where people get stuck in it has to feel like I've suffered for it.
Mm.
And the ease is almost unfamiliar, where actually ease can just be a sense of momentum. It doesn't mean we're not doing anything, because I think some people think ease as well it's like you're not doing anything, you're not progressing, you're not taking any action.
Mhm.
But I just think it's momentum.
Totally. What are the top signs that you find when a female or a male founder or entrepreneur comes to you in your space? What are the top signs that you see them that they're operating against their human design?
Look, it's usually some form of burnout. Now, it's not always burnout in the traditional adrenal fatigue, like medical sense. It can be emotional burnout. It can be mental load burnout. It can be resentment towards the very business that they've built, the people that they have hired, the clients that they work with, a sense of lack of fulfillment, lack of passion. It's like, how many of us start businesses because we're passionate about something, we want to build something, and then you build it and you're thinking, I don't know if I built the right thing. I don't know if I want to be in this anymore. So I see sort of like a lack of passion, feeling of burnout, resentment, but also sometimes this sense that there's just this little inner niggle that's kind of like something isn't working and I can't quite put my finger on it, but something doesn't feel quite right. And that's usually the thing that will eventually snowball into something bigger. And it's usually just a misalignment. It might be the way that you're working. It's also a bit of a performance piece, right? So many entrepreneurs come to me and be like, I feel like I'm just constantly performing. Like you've got to show up and you've got to switch something on. And it's like there's a level of identity and authenticity there then that also feels like that's not real.
Yeah, and I think it's really, and I'm sure you would agree, really easy to slip into that because, like you said, the conditioning and the modeling that we are just by default being presented into the world. But especially if you're working in the online space, if you're marketing online, if you're using Instagram and TikTok and all these online spaces to, you know, platform your business, it is so easy to slip into mirroring what other people are doing, right? So it's actually really, really hard not to do those things, don't you
Yeah.
think?
We look at other people that are successful in our eyes and we think, okay, well, if I do what they do, then surely the result will be the same. And sometimes it is, but it's not sustainable for you as the individual. So I always say to my clients, every coach, business coach, strategist, whatever it is, all the information out, there's 100 million ways to run successful business. But you will find that a lot of the time you keep hitting, like you build momentum, you kind of build the thing, it's all working well. And then something happens and you're like, why can't I sustain this? Why do I keep? And it's just because you're not actually filtering it through or considering your own energetic blueprint. So it's like we can use all the incredible strategies that are out there. We just need to know how to apply it to ourselves so that it actually is sustainable for the long term.
Yeah, and human design almost becomes like this filter, right? It's like you take all the strategies and all of the business blueprints and you take all the things, but
Mhm.
you're filtering it through your own human design and go, you know what, that will work for me. And well, guys, admittedly, tell you how many different business models I've chased and built because it worked for that business owner. And this coach told me to do this. And then you're like, "Hold on, there's something that's it's you realize it's not working because it's working against my human design." So, that takes me into the next question for you is, what changes in business when someone finally starts to work with their natural energy instead of forcing themselves into someone else's business model?
Good question. I think number one, you kind of find your true authenticity and identity. Again, like you got to come back to who you are and what it is that you actually want. Because a lot of business owners obviously talk about success, but success doesn't look the same for everybody. So often it is about going back and going like, what does success actually look like for you? For some people, it's literally making $100,000 a year and having time to go pick up their kids at school at an appropriate time, or being able to hire a cleaner and do what they love. For other people, it's multiple six figures and building a team and whatever else that might be. For some people, it's seven figures and plus. It's like, what does success look like to you? And also, where are we always self-abandoning for the sake of success,
Mhm.
right? Because so many of us are like, yay, I'm successful. And then they're like, but if we look at ourselves, we're like, but I'm exhausted, I'm burned out, my hormones are out of whack, I don't sleep well, I'm terrified that everything is going to collapse in a hot second. And it's
Yeah.
like, we have to look at all of that and go, okay, well, what does success truly look like for me? And that really does come back down to an identity piece. It's like, who am I really? What am I really wanting to achieve here and why? Am I just, because so many of my clients, I'll say to them, whose version of success are you actually chasing? Is it social media's version of success? Is it a parent's version of success, a family member, a friend, a mentor's version of success? But what is it that you deem successful for you? Because we've all got conditioning, we've all got shadow stuff. So we've got to really work through, it's a self-worth piece as well. I think all entrepreneurs, there's nothing wrong with proving yourself. We're all trying to prove something at
Mhm.
some degree, but it's like, are you proving something at the expense of yourself?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I am just thinking about all the things that are running through my head. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, because I have been trying to understand my human design more, and we're gonna get into projectors specifically because we're both projectors." So for everyone listening, there are how many human design types? 5. Okay, so there's 5 human design types, and there's a human design type called a projector, and we're a very small percentage of the world, which I will let you talk about that because you're the expert. But through my own learnings on understanding my projector energy, I actually figured out that my entire household is manifesting generators and generators. Okay. And with that much energy in a household for a projector, it's exhausting. Okay. But when it comes to running a business and getting into that comparison mode, I think it is so important that we understand our own energy type and how it literally works into business, into lifestyle, how many hours a week that I work, the own energy type so I can explain to my husband why I need a timeout sometimes, right? Like all
Yes.
the things. So, can you give us an overview of projectors because you know them very deeply well, being one yourself? And I think you DM'd me one time and was like, "I'm a projector too." And I said, "I actually don't know that I've met personally, I've never met that I know of other projectors. It could be in my family if I did the research, but tell us why we're so unique."
Yeah, absolutely. So we make up approximately 20% of the population. So we are a small percentage. And really what it is there are the 5 types are just kind of split in two. You've got 2 types that are what we call energy types based on circuitry, which I won't get too complicated with. And then there's the other 3, which projectors is of that, which is what we call the non-energy types. So it doesn't mean that we have no energy at all. It just means that we don't have what we call a defined sacral center, which means when our energy is used up, it's used up. It means we need to rest. So I love to use the saying like rest to success.
Mhm.
right? It's like we are not here to work like everybody else, but our biggest conditioning is that approximately 70% of the population are the energy types, the two energy types, which means the conditioning around us is to keep up, so to speak, with the Joneses, which is those energetic types. And so what happens is we keep trying to do things that way and it doesn't work for us. We're super efficient. Projectors are really efficient. When we talk about the energy of it, there are auras. We've got like a really focused, penetrating aura, which means we don't need to take an 8-hour day to get everything done. We can get it done in half the time. But that
Mhm.
just means it's kind of like sprinting energy. So we're like the sprinters versus the long distance runners. Like we get in, we do our work, and then we get out. And that is ideally how we work. So it's like for a projector, we need to make sure that we understand that when we're working, we're working, when we're resting, we're resting, kind of really kind of drawing that line in the sand, but also we're incredibly good at guiding people. We've got this sort of like inner wisdom. We kind of notice patterns. We kind of collecting data, often without even realizing it. And what happens is people naturally tend to come to projectors asking for advice because we've got really good advice.
We
And we,
do.
yeah,
I will agree with that one.
and we see things really uniquely. And so when we are invited into a conversation or into a space where we're seen for our true gifts and talents and we are recognized, that's when we really thrive. And so it's not about doing more for projectors. It's actually making sure that what you are doing is right for you. And then, yeah, that's really the most important part for a projector to understand is you're not needing to do more. You don't have to work harder than anybody else. It is what you do and how well you do it. That's
Mhm.
important.
Gosh, it's so true. I think about how I just work energetically, and it's like when we're on, we are on, and we are like on fire. We have so much to give, and I think that that's why we have a natural ability to lead, is because when we are in that energetic space, it's like we give it our all. But then when it's time to shut down, it's like, I just wanna be alone, leave me I would need a cup of tea, I wanna sit in my room and watch reality TV, and no one bother me, please. Like, that is, like, exactly how I am, and I
Absolutely.
think that that's really hard, and I'm sure you agree. It's really hard for projectors. Maybe I shouldn't use the word hard. It's just an obstacle for
Hmm.
projectors in business to thrive. So what do you think projectors need in order to thrive in business and in entrepreneurship?
Systems are really important. We're actually really good at systems because we are really efficient. So, systems and processes that support us, automation is really, really important as well. But it's also knowing what your gift is, like what it is that you're really good at, and making sure that that is the thing that you're sharing. Projectors need to be seen. Well, if you think about it in general, if you want people to invite you, because that's also part of our strategy is the invitation, right? It's being invited by the right people. And so if we want to be invited, we do need to be seen. So yes, we need the rest and we need the downtime, but the reality is if people don't see you and they don't know what it is that you can do, they can't invite you in. So that's one of the biggest almost conundrums for projectors because it's like you can't be on all the time, but the reality also is you do need to be visible. So visibility is really important, but it also doesn't mean that you need to be visible 24/7. So it's like processes, procedures, and automation. If a projector can have a really well set up foundation of business, a structure, they can work really well within that. So they don't have to be on all the time. They don't have to be available all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's a good lesson for me to learn because I'll be honest, like systems and processes are not my strength because I just get too excited and I just want to run and skip all the five foundational steps and just get to the fun creative part. And I think from a creative background, sometimes you're like, oh, systems and automation is boring. Who wants to set that up?
Yes.
So I think that's really important to highlight. And being seen and being out for the world to see you and recognize your talents is it can be a really tricky balance because marketing yourself online and being seen and putting yourself out there energetically can it takes a lot of effort, right? It takes a lot of courage, bravery, and it's something that I teach in my business is being seen, embracing your unique energy, being creative. But where do you find the line where projectors in particular burn out because they are overstepping that line or putting themselves out there maybe too much?
Yeah, so it's really for projectors, it's about constantly pushing to keep up with everyone else, to feel like they need to do as much as everybody else. We are, like I said, this unique, it's kind of like we've got this zoom out energy. So I always explain projectors like it's kind of like a bird having a bird's eye view of everything. So really, we don't need to. The ideal setup for us, and that's why, I mean, I get it, process and procedures are super boring. But the reality is, one of the first things I did in my first business is I hired, like, any money I made, I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna hire a bookkeeper because I am never keeping on top of my financial stuff because it's
Totally.
boring to me." So I was like, "What can I outsource
Yeah.
that drains my energy? And then where can I put the energy I have into the things that is going to make a difference in
Mhm.
growing the business, in my visibility?" Number one. So for me, it was networking, as an example. Networking, getting out there. And when projectors share their perspective, that's where the invitations come. Now, there is going to be a period of time where if you're first starting out or you've made a pivot, you need to be able to have the patience for people to see you and see your perspective and decide whether it's for them or not, and then waiting for those correct invitations to come your way. So it's really about self-trust. I think anything to do with human design, no matter what your human design is, it's about self-trust and backing yourself and trusting. If I trusted my energetic blueprint, what could be possible for me? Because we all know that there's a way that we're currently operating that's not working, but we just don't know what else to do. And we're so afraid that if we shift it, that things are going to stall for a period of time. And it will. Right. And I think for projectors, that's a big one as well, because money is often tied into how much you do, right? It's a productivity piece. So projectors are often like, we're not very good at resting because we're like, but if I'm resting, I'm not actually being productive. So how am I going to make money?
Mhm.
So the important piece though, is that there has to be a piece of momentum being built, but you have to be willing to share your perspective. You're going to have a perspective on something, all projectors do, that on a topic that they're not yet sharing potentially because they're afraid of what people are going to say or what people are going to think. But the minute you do that, you bring the people into your world that are there for it, and you're automatically going to remove the people that are not there for it, which is perfect because you can't be there for anyone anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I'm just thinking about like I've got an operational business manager who does like all my back end stuff and I pay her every month because I'm just like, if I had to do that, I would be so like stuck in my own business. But it took a long time to get to that place where I was like, okay, I really need to outsource this help because that is not my expertise. And I think that, again, touching on like the patience part of it can be one of the hardest parts because I think that projector energy types, and I'm just thinking about myself, is we get so excited, we get thrown. I call myself the ideas girl. Like I'm the ideas woman. I have so many ideas and I want to do everything all the time. But I've become more aware of my own energy and understanding that the ideas come. And that's why a lot of people hire me, is because I am the ideas girl and I have a really big open mind, but also understanding that I don't have to do everything. That's actually not going to benefit my business, but that can be really difficult as someone who loves that type of energy and leans into creativity. So specifically for projectors, like when they are in true alignment, maybe someone's come to you and they've worked, and you would obviously be in this space being a projector yourself. When they are like in true alignment, they've done the work, they understand their human design, and they're just like operating at this amazing level of understanding their energy and working their business. Like, what does that look like for a projector woman? How do you see her running her business and living her day to day life?
It's trusting her own rhythm. So all projectors, so the thing with human design is obviously there's the 5 energy types. So you've got your energetic component, but then there's a whole body graph that's got some real unique elements to each person. So for example, you and I are 2 projectors. We will have different circuitry. There will be different things that are activated in my chart that might not be activated in your chart. So what that would look like is a projector rhythm for me for a work week is going to look very different to what it might look like for you. So again, it's about that self-awareness and being willing to kind of try things out. So I know for me, if I've got a lot that I need to get done work-wise, I am better off ripping the Band-Aid off, like booking it back to back 3 days, let's get it done, because then I know I've got 3 days of very little to show up for. Okay, so it's like, where can we figure it out? Like for some projectors, it's like, okay, I'll do 4 hours per day. That works for me. For others, it's like I would rather just have 2 or 3 really big days of the week, and then I can really tap out the rest. And for me as well, like I love showing up in business. Like I do, like I teach, I coach, obviously these incredible podcast interviews, but I have time blocks in my week where I don't have to show up anywhere and I can just do admin on the couch on my laptop.
Yeah.
Like so it's really about figuring out your own rhythm and making sure that, like I always say for projectors, rest to success. Your rest is actually strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not resting while checking emails and watching Netflix and, trying to, coming up with ideas and then building out an entire strategy, because that's so entrepreneurial of
Yeah.
all of us. But it's actually being like, no, I've got to have a boundary and I need proper rest. So if I'm going to rest, I'm going to do it properly. I think also one of the biggest things I want to speak into for projectors is we're not just walking around exhausted all the time. Like some people like thought that, oh, projectors, we just walk around so exhausted. Like we're just like constantly wanting a nap.
Yeah.
The piece is really tapping out of the productivity
Mm-hmm.
part. So rest for one projector could be going for a walk. It could be catching up with a friend. It could be literally Netflix and chill. Like it doesn't have to be lie down and have a nap for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head, because I'm just thinking again through my own, like what I prefer and how I prefer to work. And, you're saying you like try to jam pack it into a few days and then the rest of the week is sort of free. For me, I'm thinking about how I like to work, because I just put so much into like a podcast interview. If I'm with a client, I've got a photo shoot day, I will put so much, like when I'm on, but it's like 3 hours. And then the rest of the day, I need to be at Pilates, doing a walk on the beach, spending time with my kids, drinking coffee. Like that for me feels really good. And I actually love spaciousness in my week. Like for me, I get so overwhelmed when I open my calendar and it's just booked out for the week. That is like pure torture for me. I'm like, I need white space. Especially being a creative, like we need to have white space in my calendar for me to even just like tap in creatively. So that takes us into the next section of this podcast in talking about creative power and how that is into human design. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you know that I talk about creativity and how that ties into business, especially women in business, and how important it is to stay on the pulse of our creativity, because especially in this day and age, in 2026, we are outsourcing our creative power to so many tools, and it's a hot topic that I really keep touching on. Is AI is killing our creativity, and I just love that human design really brings us back inwards and makes us understand ourselves and helps us function as a better human being. But you need to have creative space and flair and understanding that to be a better business owner, in my opinion. So, as a human design expert, do you think that creativity is connected to your energetic alignment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think when you're not aligned with your energy, so let's, say we're not talking about projectors anymore. Let's say we're talking about one of the energy types, which could be a generator or a manifesting generator. What lights them up is really where their creativity lies, right? So it's like that gives them energy. So if you're an energy type and you're constantly drained, constantly exhausted, they also burn out. It is because there is something that you are doing that you don't enjoy, I think as human beings in general, at some level, we want to feel like we are creating something, whether it's creating the life that we want to build, whether it's actual art, whatever it is. And especially as entrepreneurs, I feel like that's why we get into entrepreneurship, because we're building something, we're creating something. And I think the reality is when you are in alignment with your energy, creativity just becomes the byproduct of that alignment, right? Because now You can create something that feels really good. It flows. It makes sense to you. It's your creative part. Like a lot of burnout is also entrepreneurs finding or founders coming to a point where they're like, I don't feel like I'm creating anymore. I'm not growing. I'm not learning part of something. I'm just kind
Mhm.
of doing, right? And I think that eventually it burns everyone out, doesn't matter what energy type you are. So I think the creative side of things is like creating a life and business that feels like it fits you rather than trying to fit the business into your life and how you want to live.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about I had this conversation with Ange Simpson. She was on my podcast a few months ago, and she's creative as well. And we were just talking about how in business, sometimes we can just end up in this like massive to do list, or we're just like every day just ticking off the to do list, and we are not getting back to ourselves, getting back to the creativity, and just like feeling in alignment with our life, with our energy, and that's where we can feel really stagnant or overstimulated. And I'm sure you get so many people coming to you being like, I just feel so stuck in business. I just don't feel like I'm able to even like create content from a place of alignment. And that creativity just is so pigeonholed for so many entrepreneurs. And I find this, right, is when that alignment and that intuition is really unlocked. Would you agree that like that creative space just starts to basically open back up, like the floodgates just start opening back up?
Absolutely. Because when we are in alignment with ourselves and we trust and we back ourselves and we know who we are, creativity automatically comes from that place. It is when we're feeling stuck, it's usually because we're comparing ourselves. We are thinking what we're doing isn't working. We get bored too quickly instead of sticking it out and making
Mhm.
sure it's actually truly working. Our manifesting generators, they are people that love variety. They've got, they want to do all the things. But what's really, really important is, are you jumping ship from idea to idea and thing to thing because you're all of a sudden convincing yourself that that's the better thing to be doing and that what you started over here is no longer? And so the important thing there is that when we are in alignment, we can hear ourselves, right? We're in tune with ourselves. When we are self comparing, when we are in fear, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is working. What if this doesn't work? What if this has been a complete waste of time? Then we start to be reactive. So when clients come to work with me and they're reactive, they tell me they're stuck. It's like, okay, cool. What are you afraid of? Where are you comparing yourself? And what have you convinced yourself that isn't working? And it's really just because maybe you just need to stick at it a little longer. Or maybe you're working in such a way that is so against your energy, the creativity cannot come from that place. We cannot be creative from fear, from stress, from overwhelm, from overthinking, overanalyzing, as you would know.
Mhm.
So it's like when we lose our creativity, it is, you could pretty much say we've lost touch with ourselves.
Mhm.
And that's the alignment piece, is when you come back into alignment and go, okay, what is it that I love to do? How do I actually love to spend my time? How am I designed to spend my time and to work and to do all the things? It's a permission slip
Mhm.
to be like, imagine like we all started business so we could do something on our own terms. And yet we all end up at some point doing something like everybody else is doing. And then we have to kind of remind ourselves, and human design gets to do this, but also with a plan and a blueprint of like, you've got to come back to yourself because that's why you started a business in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think the permission part of that is, oh, guys, just give yourself permission to live in the life that you set out to create. Because as entrepreneurs, we tend to think like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to have this amazing life and I'm going to work from home and all these things. And then it's like all of a sudden we find ourselves staring at a computer for 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day, whatever it is. And we're just so overstimulated and burnt out and so out of touch with our own brain and energy. And it's like, for me, even, I have to be like, Camry, get off the phone, get off of the computer, get outside, go for a walk, work from a cafe. Like, that is when you are trying to force creativity or fresh energy in your business, it's not coming when you are sitting there in front of a computer for 7 hours. It just isn't. So understanding that human design and that alignment part, you start, like I said before, you start to use it as a filter for your whole life and what's going to help you thrive in all these aspects. So I love that so much. So do you think that projectors, going back to projectors for a minute, I'm just being a little selfish here. Let's be honest. I'm asking her all the questions about projectors. Do you think that projectors are naturally wired for creative and leadership careers?
Yes. And the way I see creative energy and leadership energy is that if we look at the ideal setup for projectors is that we get to be the artist in our business. We get to be, so when you look at leadership as well, it's like if you're as a projector stepping fully into your leadership, you get to lean into how would I do this? Not how does somebody else do it? How does somebody else run a courses business? How does somebody else do whatever? It's like, how would I do this as a projector that sees what I see? Because we also are very good, because we very good at process and procedures. We're actually fantastic at seeing what works and what doesn't work. And a lot of projectors will resonate with this, where we will have a sense of, like, we might go into a business or we might be around a group of people, and then all of a sudden people are talking and we're like, I know that that's not going to work, or I can just tell that that's going to be the outcome. And then if you share that, other people are like, but how do you know? We can't explain it. It's just like we do this data collecting thing and then we zoom out and we see it from a higher perspective. And we're just like, I can just tell what's going to work and what's not going to work and how this is going to turn out. So that in itself is, if you allow the space to give yourself the time to put all of that together, that in itself is a creative piece, because you're kind of like taking all the little bits and pieces and being like, I see what's going to be playing out here. And then based on that, I'm going to now set up, what I'm about to do. That is creative. And when the ideal scenario for a projector in their business is to feel like they are the artist, not constantly the doer of
Mhm.
things. So that's why we're really good coaches, teachers, mentors, because we're not necessarily thriving in the groundwork every day. Yes, as business owners, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But the reality is, the ideal is where we usually feel like we thrive is when we get to jump on a podcast, have a mentoring session with our clients, support somebody in, like for you, creating their creative vision. That's where you shine, because that is exactly how you're designed. You're leading that person into that next phase, but you're not doing it for them.
Mhm.
And that is where projectors really thrive. It's like, I get to guide, support, reflect back, mirror, give you the guidance, and then you go and do the thing.
Yeah, I think that that was a big life-changing moment for me, specifically in business, was understanding and learning that I'm going to get paid for my thought leadership, my perspective,
Yes.
my creative power, instead of always doing the do. Like, I think that that can be a real struggle when you are like, well, I feel like I should be doing more or delivering more or giving
100%.
them more tangible things. Whereas and I think that, I don't remember if someone said this to me or if I read it somewhere. It was like, you will get paid for your, like I said, thought leadership,
Mhm.
your ideas. Like, your ideas are worth being paid for. And I was like, it was just this permission slip that I was like, because that conditioning of, working a 9 to 5 and going and clocking in and doing all these hours, we tell ourselves that
Mhm.
that is what we are supposed to do to be able to get paid money. And it has just really come into fruition in my business, and the pivot that I've made over the last, 6 months is like, people hire me to give them vision, give them, guide them on this path, see parts of them and who they are that they can't see themselves. And that's what it's like, just realizing the gifts that you have and how to anchor into that. And human design has really given me just the permission and the tools to go, this is who you were meant to be from the time you were born. Like, that's what's so cool about this. I love, and that's why I asked the question of like, who was little Lindell? Because when I think about who is little Camry, like those gifts were given and embedded in me from a very young age, and it's just all comes to fruition as adults, you know? It's really cool. I love it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we're talking about this because I think as well, a lot of people will resonate with, again, like walking into a corporate job. Some people thrive off that, and that is amazing for them. And it's like, but imagine if we all just understood how we were designed. That's why I love bringing into teams as well, because imagine you've got a corporate team, like you, 9 to 5 job, but everybody knows what everybody is, what everybody's energy type is. And then you've got a projector that is actually going to be, because the thing with projectors as well is we get so much energy from being seen in our gifts, from being recognized.
Mhm.
You'll get so much, no longer valuing people on how many hours they're working, but we're valuing what they're bringing to the table, because you're going to have your gens and your generators being like, yeah, let's go. Like we're executing, we're doing the thing. The projector gets to thrive on bringing the ideas, guiding everybody and finishing the project properly and all of those sorts of things. Like you bring all of that in. You've got your manifester as well, which is big visionary people that differently as well. It's like, imagine if we knew how everyone worked, so everybody could actually work to their strengths
Mhm.
instead of just shoving everybody in a box and being like, this is your role, this is your job description, these are the things you need to tick off every day. People are so much more productive when they get to do what they're really skilled at.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so true. And even just like in marriage, in
Yeah.
raising children, I
Yeah.
have a generator husband who is like go, go, go and literally doesn't have an off button. And I used to compare myself to him and be like, why don't I have as much energy as him? And why is he so go, 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 go? And even just communicating to him, I'm like, I am a projector. And I'm like, this is what I need, and making him understand my energy type. But also, I love to be seen for my talents and my vision and the things that are unique to me, and telling him, I want you to be like giving me words of affirmation. That
Mhm.
lights me up when I get a good testimonial from, a client. That literally makes my whole world light up. And then I work off of that energy, and that's when I'm in really good creation mode. It literally is this huge knock-on effect
Mhm.
in your whole life that it just makes you open your eyes and go like, "Gosh, why did I work this way for so many years?" It almost is frustrating to think I feel like I was 10 years behind by the time I figured out who I was and I think you can speak on this as well, but human design has become pretty relevant in the last maybe 5 years. It wasn't a huge thing, but
Mhm.
it's now becoming so accessible to so many people.
It is, and I think it's also from a just a collective consciousness. Like people are more open in the last 5, 6 years. People are opening up more. They're more willing to see different ways of being, different ways of doing things. And so that is also why all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my gosh, what is human design? What is this thing that everyone's talking about? And it's even with, like, if you think about astrology and other modalities, it's like now corporations are interested. I mean, like, there's really big companies now that, for example, use NLP. And before that, people
Mhm.
never have touched NLP. And so it is really awesome to see how we're starting to move more into the individual person and being like, well, if the individual person is thriving in business, in relationship, in family, in entrepreneurship, of course we're going to get more out of people in that way, in the best way. And everybody gets to benefit from that. So even like thinking about bringing human design into schools, like imagine little kids, like understanding children,
Totally.
like, I'm sure everybody feel like that. If I knew this 20 years ago, right? Like, what a different way of life, I would have been doing. And like looking back at my corporate time, it's like, oh, no wonder I was constantly exhausted. I was constantly chasing the validation of being the hard worker,
Mhm.
because that was the thing that was, especially in that generation and the generations we've all grown up in, is like that was the thing that you got praised for, how
Yeah.
hard you work. And it's like now we're moving into a time of like, well, what is the actual results and the transformation? Doesn't matter how hard it is to get there. It's like, is there a transformation? Are there results? And we get to focus in on that more. Doesn't matter how long it takes to get there.
Yeah. The biggest takeaway is like, it doesn't have to be this hard. It
Yes.
doesn't. This is your permission slip to make it easier for yourself. Okay. I want to get into spicy rapid fire questions because we could talk for probably 2 or 3 more hours, let's be honest. But I want to ask you, so we love a bit of spice on this podcast. So I'm going to ask you some spicy questions. Okay, my first question for you is, what's the most damaging business advice for a projector?
Most damaging business advice would be working as much as possible, like just doing as much as you possibly can to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Stop
it's
doing
actually the
that.
quality of the work that we're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Quality over quantity, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you think that hustle culture is especially harmful for women in particular?
Well, I've got a different take on hustle culture. I actually don't mind a bit of hustle. I feel like I believe that there's sometimes a time for hustle. I think it is the sustainability of how long you're going to hustle for. So I think that absolutely, that if we're looking at hustle culture from it's a constant hustle, yes, that's super damaging because also for women, we're not also even like if we just look at hormones, we're not designed like men. So we're not supposed to, we don't want to work like men. And we don't want to work like them anyway. We
Yeah.
want to, because we are designed uniquely for a reason. So I believe hustle culture is, yes, bad for women, but I also believe in that sometimes a little hustle is necessary to get something off the ground. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, I don't believe in the hustle. And it's like, but there are periods though, regardless of our energy type, where we do just need to lock in and get it done.
Yeah, seasons in business, right? I think that's one of the best advice I ever heard was like your seasons. I think that Tony Robbins actually speaks about this. My husband read his book and it was like seasons in life, in business. It's like winter and summer, and it's like there's going to be really hard times and there's going to be really difficult or easier times in business. So I completely agree with that. But yeah, our hormones are not made for keeping up with male energy. What is something that instantly tells you that someone is building in their wrong energy? Like if a founder or an entrepreneur comes to you or you see this as like a overall
Mhm.
arching problem, like what is one thing that you instantly they're working in the wrong energy type?
It's usually a sense of just constant struggle. Like if you just constantly feel like everything's an uphill battle and everything is a struggle and getting clients is a struggle, leads is a struggle, marketing, showing up, um, anything that is, yeah, if it just feels like a constant struggle, you're completely outside of your energy.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all been there. We all know that. Or maybe you're there right now, right? It's like everyone's felt that at some point where it's like you're just pushing shit uphill and you feel like nothing's working. Okay, this one's going to be a good one. Tell me one controversial human design opinion.
I do love a controversial opinion. Okay, so this is a bit polarizing for human design, but I also don't believe in giving our power away to anything. So I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with human design. It's everything that I do. However, I don't like when people use it as an excuse to not move the needle in their lives. So sometimes I hear projectors like, oh, I can't do that because I can only work 4 hours a day. And I'm like, no, no, no. You can do anything you want to do. If you really want to do it, it can be done. You just need to make sure that you're constantly checking in with yourself and you're in alignment and you don't have to subscribe to the burnout.
Mhm.
So that's probably the biggest thing is do not give your power away to anything. This is an incredible tool and modality to use so that you are at your best and you're working in alignment with who you are, but you're not holding on to your limitations. You're not going and learning about your human design and then being like, oh, I can't do X, Y, and Z because of my human design. That's like my pet peeve.
Yeah. Using it as a tool rather than an excuse.
Correct.
100%. Okay. What human design type do you think struggles the most in the online or entrepreneurial space? Do you find like there's one particular that probably finds things more difficult than the other?
I think naturally the probably look, I would say maybe projectors only because there is this misunderstanding about rest and visibility, right? And it's like you don't have to do a lot to be visible. You just need to share and talk about the thing that you love. But then I would also say, I think overall, there's also a huge piece of conditioning for our energy types So manifesting generators, for example, I would say also can struggle because they're so multi-passionate and they can go in so many different directions. You often see manifesting generators burn out because they're trying to do too much at once.
Mhm.
And social media gives them kind of like that dopamine hit that they constantly need and that they love, but it sends them in all different directions. So that can actually be really challenging for, if I was to speak to an energy type, to them, because they almost get too distracted.
Yeah. I actually have one best friend that's a manifesting generator. I'm thinking about her and just wants to do everything and every idea is like, yeah, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, pull
Take
back.
it take a step back. Like, yeah. So I totally agree with that. Statistically, who are the most successful in terms of entrepreneurship? What human design type do you see is traditionally pretty successful?
To be honest, the true answer to that question is whoever is in alignment with their energy, like truly. Obviously, we do have majority of the population, like 70% of the population being generators and manifesting generators. So they're always going to seem in the business world that there's a lot of them that are successful. But I also know reflectors, projectors, and manifestors that are incredibly successful. So I would say that would be unfair to answer only because it always be looking like mani gens and generators. But the reality is, if I had to draw a line through all of them, all of the energy types that I know of that are very successful, it would be the fact that they're all working with their energy and they are authentic to who they are and they trust that their energy is in alignment and they're not trying to be like anyone else and work like anyone else.
Yeah, I actually love that answer so much more because I'm like, the answer is that it's the people who choose to do the work and understand this and get to know themselves and are working in alignment. It's like the people who then figure that out. And I've always said that entrepreneurship is like the biggest personal development journey you'll ever go through, right? It's like always like 90% of quote unquote success in entrepreneurship is just working on yourself. It's like figuring out your own limitations and
Yeah.
figuring that out. So I actually love that answer because it's so true. You just got to do the work, figure yourself out.
Exactly. For some entrepreneurs as well, like it doesn't have to be this like, oh my gosh, I've got so much work to do on myself. There's some people will come and work with me and it'll literally be a couple of sessions and we'll be like, cool, you're just out of alignment in this area.
Mhm,
Just shift that. It's like this one little percent tweak and then all of a sudden, boom, everything changes and they're good to go. So
mhm.
it's like it just depends on where you're at. But it's like for some people, it's like these tiny little tweaks and for others, it's bigger things. But it doesn't have to be this like drain.
Yeah. What a beautiful tool. And I think that you are just doing incredible work because I can see how this would benefit so many people. And I'm just thinking like we need to have a session together because I only know a little bit of like what I've read, right? But actually getting into the nitty-gritty and understanding like what my profile is and just getting to know myself even on that deeper level because I truly believe that it's a benefit to everyone, whether you are a solopreneur. I'm just thinking about my husband and his
Mhm.
business and all the employees that he has and just understanding how they work together as a team. It's so beneficial to so many people. So I think you're doing incredible work and I love that you've come on and shared so much value to everyone here. I would love for you to share where everyone can find you, how they can work with you, talk a little bit about your free business blueprint, and also if you can touch on your new launch that's coming in June.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love Instagram, so I'm always on Instagram. So it's just my name, Lindell Stewart. So always in my DMs, I love a chat. I love connecting with people, and just I've got a channel as well on Instagram that I share a lot of value in, so people can jump on in there. It just gives me a good opportunity to talk, which I love, and I think you're the same.
I'm the same.
Instagram is where I live. My free business blueprint is an incredible resource. It is not just your human design personal blueprint, but it's actually through the lens of business. So basically, you can just comment business on any of my content and you will get a DM. You can download your business blueprint. You do have to enter in your birth details and then you can download. It's like a 60-page report. It is incredible. You can start reading through that. There's going to be so much that will resonate with you to kind of understand yourself better. And there's going to to be some things that you're going to learn about yourself. You're going to be like, wow, that's super, super interesting. So that's the free resource. One of my best ways to start working with me, if you're kind of like, okay, I like this idea, I want to know a bit more about myself, is it's actually my one-on-one business blueprint. So it's a 2-hour deep dive. It's just so perfect for me as a projector. Like, get in there, help you sort out whatever is keeping you stuck in business, find out what that might be. Sometimes we build out a strategy for people, just it's very specific to the person. So it's a big 2-hour deep dive. And then I'm going to be launching a sort of like a group program / course that's coming up in June, which I'm really excited for. It's going to be a really nice kind of way for people to jump in and learn about themselves without necessarily feeling like they've got to spend a ton of time and energy into learning something completely new. It's just going to be this opportunity to kind of jump in, and understand their own blueprint.
So good, guys. Go over, check her out, give her a follow. All of the links will be down in the show notes. Lindell, you are an icon. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your wisdom. I think that you are providing so much value to the world and really helping business owners get out of that struggle. Because let's be honest, we've all been there and it's hard. And the beauty is there's incredible women like yourself out there who are letting you have the permission that it can be easy and it doesn't have to be so hard and we don't have to work from a place of struggle. So thank you so much and I really appreciate you.
Amazing. Thank you for having me, Camry. It was awesome.
Thank you.